When you think about ruined dishes, you'd probably think of one of the contestants screwing up in their usual spectacular fashion. But these are the times when Chef Ramsay himself trashed the dishes on Hell's Kitchen. And before we start things off, it looks like Chef Ramsay has a question for you.
What is that?
Yeah, come on guys, why don't you help him out in the comments section down below? And hey, wrong answers only. Meanwhile, allow me to start from, the start. Andrew's Absolute Penne was the first signature dish Chef Ramsay tasted on the show. This dish was loaded with peppers, parmesan, and basil. But Chef Ramsay had a strong reaction to it. He took one bite and said,
That is absolute dog shit.
Yeah, he totally set the tone for everything else that followed. Later, he turned to Andrew, who had been cooking for 10 long years, and handed him down the bitter truth. He told him that all his years of kitchen experience were an absolute waste. Ow, that must have hurt. But what did Andrew do? Well, he just couldn't kick his holier-than-thou attitude and suggested that the dish just needed some salt. But Chef Ramsay just wasn't impressed with Andrew's arrogance.
What a waste of 10 years. Get back in fucking line.
However, here comes a contestant who was desperately looking forward to impressing Chef Ramsay. You see, during the first ever service, Elsie wanted to display her skills. But her risotto turned out to be so bad that it got stuck to the plate like glue. When Chef Ramsay tried to shake it off, it just wouldn't budge, and well, how do you think he reacted?
Come on, fucking hell. Come on, start it again, yes?
Sorry, Elsie, but better luck next time. An hour and 20 minutes into the meal service, some of the Red Kitchen's customers were already having their appetizers and moving on to the main course. But then Chris messed up and sent an overcooked salmon to the pass. Chef Ramsay was so frustrated that he simply lost it.
Are you new as fuck up?
Yeah, he actually did that. He then asked Chris to redo the whole order. Chris, though, was a bit too confident and thought that Chef Ramsay would eventually recognize his skills. Meanwhile, Jimmy was on his own personal journey. He first called Chef Ramsay crazy, and then he had a lot more to say.
I'm not about to take shit from Gordon. I'm not a piece of garbage.
But as you may know, overconfidence is never a good thing. And well, it was time for Jimmy to bite the dust.
That looks like a dog's dinner, and you want me to serve that in there?
All Chef Ramsay wanted at this point was just some honesty. And so, he asked Jimmy if he would serve this dish to anyone. But when Jimmy actually said no, Chef Ramsay was left with one thing to do.
Fuck yourself, get it in the bin.
So much for not taking shit from the famous chef, huh? Anyway, what happened in the Signature Dish Challenge from Season 2 was even crazier. When it was Maribel's turn, she nervously brought her dish to Chef Ramsay for some judgment. She had prepared an Argentine plantain soup, hoping to impress the tough chef. But was he?
I'm so sorry. Garlicky, it's hot, looks like baby vomit.
Ah, how I love those poetic descriptions. Always on point, Mr. Ramsay. But Maribel was obviously disappointed with Chef Ramsay's reaction. She admitted that her dish was an absolute embarrassment, but also called him out for having low spice tolerance.
I don't think it was too spicy. I don't think he could take the spice. I think he's a wimp when it comes to that.
Would you agree with her? Anyway, during the second service, the red team fucked up and sent up a monkfish with walnuts in the vinaigrette.
Who brought this up?
I did.
Taste the vinaigrette.
Didn't do the vinaigrette. I'm sorry, I just did the fish.
Okay, so his favorite was spared. But eventually, Rachel and Heather had to take some responsibility.
Walnuts is with the scallops. Let's go.
Speaking of crazy Ramsay moments, I remember this incredibly iconic service from Season 4 featuring peak Matt content.
This is fucking crazy. This is fucking crazy.
So Matt was working on the meat station alongside Christina. And that's when Chef Ramsay shouted out the first order and things got fiery. You see, there was a sudden flare-up in one of Matt's pans, and he tried to blow it out like he was blowing out candles rather than facing down, inferno.
You blow oil on your face, you fucking idiot.
Well, one thing was clear, Chef Ramsay had to keep an eye on Matt. Now, fast forward a bit, when Chef Ramsay barked out an order, Matt had a bit of a brain freeze moment. He couldn't repeat it a few times, which really ticked Ramsay off.
Beef and fish.
Oh my god.
This guy really wasn't in the game mentally. Chef Ramsay had one of the most simplest requests: communicate with Bobby and Corey. But it really seemed like Matt missed the memo, so Chef Ramsay gave him a second shot, but not before asking him to interact with his team.
Communicate!
I just communicated with them.
The team!
So what did Matt do next? He managed to convince Christina to work with him, which was a bit surprising considering they had clashed earlier. Together, they approached Bobby to coordinate, and Bobby was ready. Matt sent his filet mignon, and Christina took her ribeye to the pass. But hold on, don't celebrate just yet. One order for ribeye came back because it was overcooked, and that got Chef Ramsay in a bit of a mood.
It's raw!
As if that wasn't enough, Chef Ramsay later caught Matt sneaking a bite of his Wellington.
Why are you eating?
I'm not, I'm tasting.
Come here, you fucking idiot!
Oh, Matt, no you didn't. But hey, at least Raj wasn't alone now.
They're struggling, and you're the only one fucking eating!
To make things even more challenging, Chef Ramsay threw Matt another curveball by asking him to repeat the order yet again.
I don't know now.
Oh my god almighty.
This guy was brought to his knees. Sometime later, when Matt sent out raw Wellingtons and an overcooked filet mignon, Chef Ramsay had had enough. He called the whole crew to come over and get a feel of those dishes, and he wasn't exactly thrilled.
That's fucking what? Well, I'm asking the question!
But Matt's troubles didn't stop there. Chef Ramsay threw a question at him, and when Matt couldn't come up with an answer, Ramsay's fury reached new heights. Shortly after, Matt made a detour to the hot plate, citing a migraine as his reason. But Chef Ramsay wasn't buying it.
What's going next?
Busy getting yelled at.
Unfortunately for him, Chef Ramsay overheard every last word, and no, he wasn't pleased.
You just give me overcooked meat. Overcooked filet. Now you're saying I'm getting yelled at.
Matt didn't take the blame though. He pointed fingers at his teammates, claiming he was a great team player surrounded by a bunch of non-team players. But wait, there was way more drama to it. Matt, in a moment of distraction or frustration, grabbed a hot pan with his bare hand and, well, I think you know what happened.
Send me home.
Yeah, it just wasn't his day. When Chef Ramsay called for the next order, Christina asked Matt for a time, and he played the migraine card yet again, which didn't sit well with Corey, who called him a crybaby. Corey then pressed him for a time, and after some hesitation, Matt said 3 minutes. But when the famous chef asked him about what was going on, Matt's response wasn't quite up to snuff. Once again, he started to just throw the blame around.
He's got a migraine. Look, hey, look at that, Scott.
Bobby found this somewhat amusing, but Matt clearly didn't share the same sentiment. Chef Ramsay really wanted to figure out what was up with the guy, and so called Matt forward to talk. But Matt wasn't up for it. Turns out he couldn't feel anything in his hands. They were practically useless. And what do you think Chef Ramsay did next? He held his hand, led him to the back store, and basically kicked him out of the kitchen.
Go upstairs to the dorm and lie down, yes?
Yep, that's what happens to quitters. But this next contestant from the very same season stood out to me for her inconsistency. The only thing she was consistent in was talking back to Chef Ramsay. She even went to the extent of saying that Chef Ramsay was clowning her.
Without a shadow of a doubt, I am a better chef than anybody in this place.
Yes, Jen Gavin it is. During the 7th dinner service, Jen was stationed at the garnish station. When the orders transitioned to the entrees, she had a moment where she asked Roseanne not to fire her order just yet. But Chef Ramsay wasn't having it. He took a moment to school her, expressing that she shouldn't be dragging her team down.
Don't dare start calling tables away.
Now, this is where things took a turn for the worse. Jen started showing a side of her that wasn't exactly pretty. She mentioned that Chef Ramsay seemed to favor vocal and loud team members, and so she pushed herself to the front and stepped up as a vocal leader.
He gets pissed off at me when I try to be vocal and be the leader.
I guess she forgot how the brigade functions on the way, though. So Chef Ramsay decided to remind her who was the one calling out the orders. It was definitely a bit of a wake-up call for Jen, but she didn't seem to get the hint. Later on, Christina reached out to her, asking for a time, but by this time, Jen had essentially gone silent and became unresponsive.
Jen!
She was harboring some serious resentment towards Chef Ramsay because of what went down earlier. Around the very same time, Roseanne happened to send out some raw langoustines, and Chef Ramsay made a whole deal about them.
Fucking right as shit. Did it hurt?
No, chef.
Fucking sue me.
By the way, he also took the opportunity to point the finger at Jen, accusing her of giving up.
You've given up. Just the way you mow, turn, chips on your shoulder. I've had enough!
But the famous chef wasn't done yet. He then dropped another bombshell, telling Jen to take her garnishes right back. Sometime later, when he asked her if her garnishes were ready, she bluntly denied, avoiding any possibility of eye contact.
You're so far up your own arse, you don't know how fucking cocky you are.
You see, Jen was pretty upset, but Chef Ramsay, his frustration had reached its peak.
f***ing table again.
In response, Jen expressed her frustration, saying she was tired of feeling disrespected.
Tray of food on my station? Don't nobody disrespect me like that.
But Chef Ramsay wasn't having it and schooled her once more, pointing out her tendency to clam up after receiving criticism.
I can't even give you any direction. Do you know why? You're undirectable.
Her poor attitude continued in the next service when she brought a raw souffle to the pass.
There you go.
And it just kept getting worse. In the next one, although she did start off strong, she soon ended up plating a salty risotto. Chef Ramsay was so pissed that he promptly asked her to taste it and start over.
Salty. And I don't pay you that compliment for you to screw me 10 minutes later.
Despite this hiccup, about 30 minutes into the service, with the help of Petroza, she managed to get half of their appetizers to the customers, showing resilience despite the setbacks. However, as the service continued, a crucial mistake occurred. Chef Ramsay discovered burnt rice sitting on the appetizer station, and when he asked who was responsible, Jen stepped up and acknowledged the error.
F***ing useless.
Which means there was only one thing left to do.
Get out and get to the door.
Oh boy. But what happened in season 5 was totally unexpected.
We f***ing wasted the most expensive part. What are you gonna do, get Daddy to buy you a new one?
You see, Cess filet fiasco is quite infamous and frankly too tough to beat. But for now, I'm gonna focus on something else. During the second dinner service, Carol was working at the appetizer station with Andrea. Early on into the service, she admitted to Chef Ramsay that she had burned the garlic for the first risotto. To make things even worse, her second attempt ran into trouble as well.
What the f*** is that? What is that? Hey madam, what is that?
Carol, of course, defended herself, claiming that she didn't think the risotto was that bad and could still be served. Towards the end of the service, Carol hit a snag when she wasn't ready with her items, causing a delay for the red team. Unfortunately, this delay resulted in the red team failing to send out their final ticket before the blue team did, and this eventually led to their loss. But in this next service, Giovanni's confidence was soaring because he had an experience in a steakhouse.
Blue team's gonna win dinner service tonight. I'm a chef at the steakhouse. I feel totally confident. I do this every day.
It was the steakhouse double dinner service, and Giovanni found himself at the meat and grill station alongside Robert. However, it didn't get off to a smooth start. Carol brought back a raw steak, and Chef Ramsay, never one to hold back, showed it to Giovanni and Robert. He did way more than just showing it to them.
That's it! It's cool.
Eventually, more steaks prepared by Giovanni were sent back for being undercooked, leading Chef Ramsay to express his anger and confusion. He called the whole situation a joke, and Giovanni felt defeated. For someone with so much experience, I'm sure it was tough to struggle with meat.
It's f***ing blue!
But nothing, and I mean nothing, can beat Chef Ramsay's wrath in season 7 when Siobhan was holding down the meat station. So during the barbecue-themed dinner service, when the team shifted to preparing entrees, Siobhan managed to send out some burgers to the dining room. However, one of them came back because it was undercooked. And Chef Ramsay, who was already on the verge of a breakdown, let her have it. Stop, they're already dead. I honestly lost count of how many times he smashed the shit out of those poor burgers, man. Oh, dude, I can't help but feel bad for Siobhan there. That was really rough. And season 8 was full of moments just like it. There's not a dull moment when Raj is in the house. But despite all these meme-worthy moments that he brought to the table, you'll be surprised to know what he's been up to these days. If you missed it earlier, make sure you check out my video right here. However, what Trev did in the first ever service was no better. He was holding down the fort at the appetizer station, however, his first attempt at a salad came out overdressed. And well, Chef Ramsay was dismayed.
Do you honestly think they came here for that?
No.
Unfortunately, his second go at it didn't fare any better, and this pushed Chef Ramsay over the edge. He immediately let out a roar of rage, and before you knew it, he sent the plate crashing to the ground in sheer frustration.
Dress me a f***ing salad!
I mean, fair enough. The reaction was justified because how can you screw up a simple salad? Sometimes it's really hard to understand why some chefs end up screwing the simplest dishes, like how this one did.
The asparagus looks burnt.
So it was the signature dish challenge. Danielle prepared a Parmesan crusted chicken breast served over rice with lemon beurre blanc and grilled asparagus. Sadly, her dish didn't meet Chef Ramsay's standards not one bit. Not just the asparagus, but he also noticed that the chicken was burnt underneath, and this made him pretty mad.
I'm unimpressed.
And Anthony's dish wasn't any better either. He served a New Orleans barbecue scallops po' boy. However, Chef Ramsay wasn't pleased with what he got. Anthony tried to make the dish look neater by putting rice on the side of the bowl. But my boy was about to get a reality check. And that's when Chef Ramsay let him in on a little trick, a really easy one.
Let me show you something really difficult.
When Chef Ramsay busts out the sarcasm, you know you flunked real bad. As for the flavor, well, to put it eloquently in Chef Ramsay's vocabulary, it was disgusting.
And you've just embarrassed New Orleans cuisine.
But you know what? Anthony was actually one of the most bearable chefs that season. And the fact that he was eliminated before Zach is a complete abomination. Anyway, I can't help but notice how creative Chef Ramsay is with his insults.
No, it's not a good job. Don't stand wetting your knickers now. It's not a good job.
Yeah, that's what happened in the second service from season 12 when Beth was handling the fish station alongside Bev. She initially ignored Rochelle's suggestions, even telling Rochelle to give her a chance to mess up before needing help. That didn't sit well with Rochelle, who reminded her to not get angry when someone's just trying to assist. Now, the situation took a turn for the worse when Beth sent out a raw lobster tail. Chef Ramsay, utterly frustrated with her and Beth's performance, had a moment of confusion, not knowing where to turn as they struggled.
I don't know where to go. Both of you've given up, and you two are
Sometime later, Beth didn't respond to Keisha's request for a time.
Where did they go? They've disappeared.
To make matters even more challenging, she didn't know where the fish was stored, prompting Keisha to accuse her of being in her own world. Afterward, Chef Ramsay had Beth and Bev feel their dry halibut. And while Keisha felt that Beth needed to get it together if she wanted to survive, Beth claimed that she knew how to cook fish. By the way, that totally wasn't the case.
dry mess.
But then came the breaking point. Beth served up a raw halibut, leaving everyone in disbelief. It seemed like she and Bev just couldn't get it together. Chef Ramsay had seen enough and decided to kick the remaining women out of the kitchen. And well, he always has a unique way to get the message across. So yeah, Chef Ramsay takes great care in plating the perfect dish. But if you mess up, he wouldn't think twice before ruining the hell out of it. Now, can you think of more times when Chef Ramsay trashed the dishes? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for all the latest updates and some cool perks, make sure to head over to the membership tab right here. And if you want to keep the fun going, don't forget to check out my next post right here since it's even better.